This is Why Am I a Mets Fan? A podcast hosted by Samantha Croston and Ashley Wenskoski.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast. That's Ashley Wenskoski. I'm Samantha Croston, and we are two Syracuse-based sports reporters. Thanks so much for joining us, as always. The road to 15,000 subscribers. It is a road that we are traveling down, y'all.
The road is roading.
Speaking of traveling, the Mets traveled down to Port St. Lucie because it is time, believe it or not, for some spring training action. Hi, Ashley. How we doing?
Hi. Every winter, especially when you live in a place like Syracuse, New York, as we have documented well on this podcast, breaking snow records that were set hundreds of years ago at this point this winter. Anyway, every winter there are a few moments that restore your will to live, such as, gaining a little bit of extra light. The clocks, it gets dark a little later. The groundhog did fail us today, so that was tough. He saw a shadow. He always sees a shadow. He's not a very reliable source, honestly.
Disagree. He didn't fail us because at least he told the damn truth. And I respect that a lot more than a groundhog who goes out there and lies.
He sees a shadow every damn year. Honestly, it's too predictable. We need to keep the body guessing with the groundhog. Anyway, and when the equipment trucks leave New York, they pack up everything. Everything's Mets branded. Mr. and Mrs. Met are out there in Queens. It's like 0 degrees. They're like, let's have a photo shoot. And they're all headed down to Florida. My will to live is partly restored by the fact that we now have the opportunity and the special chance to see Mets pitchers already reported as a spring training. Freddie Peralta is there. Jonah Tong is there. Nolan McLean is there. Clay Holmes. Some guys are already down there throwing ahead of the official report date, which is February 11th in about 10 days. And boy, was I happy to see that. You can just inject the spring training content straight into my veins.
Baseball is coming. You can taste it. You can sense it. You can feel it. And I've had enough time to process my trauma, and I am ready and back for more. I am back for more, baby. Sign me up for another year.
Anyway, back to the Mets.
Back to the Mets.
I am prepared to be disappointed once again. Sign me up.
So excited to be disappointed. Well, the reason why I wanted to do this episode is because we wanted to talk about the projected Mets opening day lineup and rotation, and just discuss with you all how we're feeling about that at this point in time. Let's talk about it. Here is what we think the lineup, the rotation, all of it's going to be. Let's start with the lineup.
We're going to give some grades. We're going to give some reaction. There's been a lot of new guys, so we're just going to see where we are at this time.
Yes. So let's just run through it, and then we'll talk about it. We have Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, Bo Bichette, Jorge Polanco, Brett Baty, Mark Vientos, Marcus Semien, Francisco Alvarez, and Luis Robert Jr. What do you think? Let's just start with the top three. Maybe we'll go a third. How do you feel about that top three right there? Lindor, Soto, Bichette.
I mean, great. First of all, I love the idea of hitting Soto second because then you have Bichette behind him. You also have Lindor right in front of him. We've been talking all offseason long about protecting Juan Soto. That does, in fact, feel like adequate protection to Juan Soto for me. Now, in this projected lineup that we had out, we'll go over the infield and the outfield, but essentially Bichette at third base because that's what they said he's going to play. Polanco at first base. This would sort of be against a righty. Then you have Baty in left field, Vientos DHing, onwards, Robert Jr. in center field. Against a lefty, maybe you pop Vientos or even Ronnie Mauricio in there for Baty, right? This would be against a right-handed pitcher. But there's some things that stick out to me here defensively. I think offensively, I don't know, maybe people would argue with that setup. Maybe there are some people who would want to move that around a little bit. But I think really where the question marks are coming for this team is defensively this year. Ironic for a team that's supposed to be getting better on defense.
Just going to say that. That is the irony of this whole situation, right?
Very ironic.
It's funny the way that it all worked out. Listen, I agree with you. I think from an offensive standpoint, especially this top three, like I see this three-headed monster and I feel great about it. I love the fact that it's Lindor, Soto, Bichette. That's going to be hard for any pitcher. That's going to be a little bit demeaning, to be honest.
And honestly, even beyond the top three, I think this lineup now has some depth, right? You have Semien in there hitting seventh. You have Polanco in there hitting cleanup. And having Robert Jr. hit at the bottom of the order, which is something he's done previously before in his career, is a little bit of a unique choice, right? But you see managers do that sometimes to get him in the 9 hole. Okay, then you circle back around to Lindor. It's kind of like it brings the top of your order up a spot sooner than it normally would.
100%. I think it's smart. I like the way it looks for now. Defensively,
This is where things get dicey.
walk me through your top issue. And then we'll kind of go tier 2, tier 3.
Okay, I don't know if I have a top. You really can't dispute much of this because David Stearns essentially told us that this is what's happening, right? After they signed Bichette. Here's the thing. Brett Baty ends up in left field as a result of them obtaining Bo Bichette. Why? Well, because he used to play third base. Now Bo Bichette's going to play there. Mind you, Bo Bichette's never played there in his life. But beyond that, they simply have nobody else to play left field right now. Now, I'll talk about Carson Bench in a minute because if he makes the team, maybe things are a little bit differently. If Carson Bench plays out of his mind in spring training and David Stearns and the like decide that he has to be in Queens come opening day, which to be honest with you, I don't think is going to happen. But if it does, then is there a world where he cuts into some of that playing time for Baty even in left field? I mean, possibly, because you look at Luis Robert Jr. in center field, that feels pretty locked down. Obviously, Juan Soto in right field, that feels pretty locked down. That's not to say that Soto and Robert Jr. will never DH a game in their life throughout the season. Yeah, you want to give Soto a little bit of a break? Have him DH for a day or two here and there. But for the most part, I kind of feel like those two spots are set. So that would open up the only other place for Carson Bench to sort of be left field. And if that's the case, how the hell is Brett Baty getting in this lineup other than DH?
I think that one of the big confusing pieces right now is where does Brett Baty really fit into all of this?
Or for hell's sake, Mark Vientos.
You can't do that. It's against the community guidelines.
Sorry.
I don't appreciate it.
I stopped myself.
Yeah, at the K. No, I know what you mean. It really has that feel like you're going to have to use Vientos or Baty as a trade piece in some way. They just can't both stay here. It's too crowded. But I will say this. You wonder how much of this they talk about. I'm sure a ton because David Stearns, I feel like, always is kind of thinking about the next move in the chess game, which I appreciate. I almost wonder if they wanted to kind of hold on to maybe one or two additional pieces here so that they could use somebody at the trade deadline if needed when they inevitably realize there's a hole here or a hole there and they're going to need somebody.
Starting pitching sucks and it's all a mess.
You know what I mean? Who the hell is to say where this team is at the trade deadline? And now you actually do have a guy like Baty or Vientos, and I'm still not sold on which one of them it should be, but you have one of them to use as a piece. I'll also say this. If Vientos really is the DH guy, it almost feels like there is no one who is feeling more pressure to perform in the first half of this year than Brett Baty. Because let's just say he's even doing a great job in left field. Still, inevitably, it kind of feels like they were loaning you that spot until Carson Bench is ready. So then you have to be hitting really well or hitting better than Mark Vientos to prove you should stay there. I'm really having a hard time seeing what his long-term role here is going to be.
Well, I think you could say that. I agree with you, but I think you could say that for, honestly, both Baty and Vientos. Because if Mark Vientos only has to DH every day and his only value is what he's producing at the plate, then Mark better produce. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Because that trade deadline is going to come around. I think the picture of things with Benj will probably be a little clearer at that point. Either he started the year in Syracuse, did really well, got called up, is either performing or not performing, or he started the year in New York. Again, you have months at that point to say, okay, we're going to stick with Benj. We really don't need Baty or Vientos or both. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's sort of, I do agree, does feel like Baty and Vientos have been the young guys here for a few years now, right? They got to earn those spots, I think, through these next few months, or else one or both of them are going to find themselves shipped off at the trade deadline. I completely agree. On that front, in this projected lineup, we had Vientos DHing. He also will probably play a little bit of first base when Polanco is not. I could see that Polanco, Vientos, first base DH situation kind of being fluid in terms of matchups, who they're playing, who the opposing pitcher is, whatever. Frankly, they just don't have a traditional first baseman on the roster. I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole here when I was putting these notes together, but it actually is really interesting. Just so everyone is clear and in the know. Crystal clear. Jorge Polanco has played one game at first base throughout his career. One. It was in April of 2025. And should I mention, it really wasn't even one game. He was substituted in as a defensive replacement in the bottom of the 9th inning because Victor Robles got hurt, and the opposing team, the San Francisco Giants, and old friend Wilmer Flores hit a walk-off single on the very next pitch. So, actually, Jorge Polanco has not played one game at first base. He's played one pitch at first base. One pitch. And that feels important to note.
Oh my God. What the hell are the Mets doing? I don't know. This seems like the kind of what the F situation that could actually work out really well for the Mets. Like maybe they're just seeing something that we're not. But you're right. It is interesting to think about because let's just say that Polanco goes out there, he's supposed to be the first baseman, and he's just not very good. Then what? Then should it be Vientos in there? And then here's another question. Should it be Baty in there? Like, could Baty play first base? Or you think that Vientos would be a better first baseman?
I mean, I think, to my knowledge, Baty did take some first base reps in Syracuse and throughout his time in the minor leagues. Who would they go with there first? I don't know who's to say. Kind of sounds like Vientos because he doesn't really have another spot on this team defensively. But you're sort of seeing what we're getting at here. This is kind of feeling like the island of misfit toys in terms of who's moving around to play where. I said about Polanco, okay, well, Polanco at least had a pitch at first base that he's seen. Bo Bichette has never played third base in his life. And the agreement for him to come to the Mets, which he agreed to and seems fine with, is that he'll be playing there because Marcus Semien obviously has plenty of experience, Gold Glove at second base, and Lindor is just frankly not moving off of shortstop. So, now when you have that crystal clear picture.
Gorgeous analogy, by the way. Really was.
Crystal clear. You have two guys at the corners who've never played there before. And so the biggest takeaway here is, I'm not going to say it's not going to work, but you're certainly going to find out how David Stearns' little piecemeal strategy is going to go here within the first few months. April, May, by June, you're going to have a clearer picture of, was this a good idea or not to put two guys out of position at both of your corner infield spots, you know?
I'm going to write a brief essay called Questioning the Corners, and I plan to have it out within the next few weeks.
Yep.
There are just more questions than answers when it comes to those positions right now. Doesn't mean that it's going to necessarily turn out bad or good. Means that we don't know yet. And that's another reason why it might make sense to have that flexibility. Because I just think this is interesting to talk about the dynamics of it. You mentioned that Vientos might go to first base because there's not another spot for him. But here's just a theoretical question. What happens if midway through the year, Benj is ready, but Baty is actually a better first baseman than Vientos? Then maybe he gets that spot.
Right.
It's like you can tell that there are a couple of people on this spot who are on the chopping block and who are really, really competing for a chance to play with the New York Mets. Now, mind you, I know no one wants to hear this, but it's just the truth. Who's to say that the New York Mets is the best place for Baty or Vientos? Probably neither of them are being utilized to their full potential here, where they might be in, let's say, a team that's not as good as the Mets.
Well, right. Luis Angel Acuna now finds himself on the Chicago White Sox, and he's going to play center field there, or at least have a chance to every single day.
Better or worse, I don't know, but that's just the truth.
Right. And I think that's where, obviously, whatever moves they make at the deadline and whoever they get rid of, whoever gets chopped on the chopping block, will be performance-based throughout these first few months. That's not news to anybody. But if the Mets do start both Bichette and Polanco at third and first base on opening day, which appears to be the plan, they will become just the second team in the last 100 years to start two non-rookie infielders on opening day with no more than one prior MLB game of experience at that position, per the Elias Sports Bureau. That would join the 1948 Dodgers, who started Jackie Robinson at second and Billy Cox at third. And for what it's worth, that turned out pretty great. We all know how that turned out for Jackie Robinson. But I don't think that we're overhyping this or making too much about this. It is sort of a unique thing here. You have 3 out of 4 guys in this infield on opening day that, first of all, 2 of them have never played the position before, and 3 out of 4 of them have never played together in any form when you consider the fact that Semien is new to the Mets. It's also ironic when you look at the up-the-middle defense. Semien, Lindor, Gold Glovers, that looks great, especially when you consider the fact that Robert Jr. is now behind them in center field. Up the middle, chef's kiss. The corners, we have questions.
Questioning the Corners.
Yeah.
Book coming out soon. This is a classic example of LOL Mets. It's non-traditional.
Entering it into the file.
It's a little silly. It's a little funny. It's a little flirty. This is just what the Mets like to do. All right?
They keep you on your toes.
They keep you on your toes. Let them cook. Let them see. It's time to grade some of these positions. We're talking about the infield and the outfield. So let's start with the infield. You have Alvarez at catcher, Polanco at first base, Semien at second base, Lindor at shortstop, Bichette at third base. Overall, how are we feeling? Should we go U grade and then I grade, or should we say it at the same time?
Sure. But, okay, I think I have two different grades. Defensively, because of the unknown. Now, don't get me wrong. This has potential to work out, but because of the first base, third base question, defensively, this is like a C to me. I mean, you have two guys playing out of position. Let's just call a spade a spade. You know what I mean? Can that be outweighed by the defense that Lindor and Semien can bring you? And even Bichette could play fantastic at third base. We frankly just don't know yet. Certainly. Right now, because of the unknown, I give it a C. But in terms of the bats, I probably give it like an A-.
I would agree with you and go A- from the offensive standpoint. I think C is a little harsh, actually. I would probably go B- just because I think that with Lindor and Bichette, with Lindor and Semien, I think there's going to be quite a few positives there, and obviously experience, and I like what I see. But I also wouldn't discount how good of a defender that Bichette can be at his best, despite the fact that he hasn't played that position before. If he can adjust to it and get used to it, like that's somebody who I think that in part they picked up because of the way that he's able to play defensively. Even Alvarez, I know that he's had some ups, some downs, but I think that Alvarez is the kind of guy who works really hard to ensure that he's the best version of himself as a player. And that was proven last year when they sent his ass to Syracuse. I mean, he took that personally. I mean that in the best way. I mean that as the biggest compliment. He came down here. He switched up a couple of things. I understand that was sort of on both sides, but still, he really did. He took that personally, switched up a few things, went back up, played better. Really, the only question mark in my mind is Polanco and what exactly happens at that position. It's just a different feel than when you had Pete Alonso there every day. It simply is. And for as much slack as Pete Alonso got, I mean, that man could certainly do a better split than I could. I don't think
pick it.
You know what? I don't know.
Alonso could pick it a little bit,
right? Like I feel like we don't necessarily give him enough credit. Like there were definitely some times where I felt like he did a decent job. So, yeah, I'll go B- until I see something that ups that grade.
And worth noting, on the bench, you obviously have Terren's backup catcher, but you have Mauricio in there too. Mauricio's going to make the team, so he can play first base at times. Could he substitute in for you at third sometimes? Maybe. And then Jared Young as well, and obviously Tyrone Taylor, but that's for the outfield. But you have options there, I guess, if the wheels fall off the bus. But all I know is I better be seeing Bo Bichette. You know, SNY Mets cranks out the content from Port St. Lucie in spring training. I want to see a whole lot of videos that entail Bo Bichette taking rocket ground balls at third base, because it's just quicker, right? Mm-hmm. The pace of the game is just so much faster with the ball coming off the bat at third.
I totally agree. And it's okay for you to say that you want to see the proof before you decide on how to feel about him. Let's go to the outfield. Baty at left field, Robert Jr. at center field, Soto at right. How are we feeling defensively?
I mean, defensively, you feel pretty good about Robert Jr. Obviously, that was the one pickup that they made it was like, okay, this makes a lot of sense from that defensive-minded standpoint that David Stearns has been preaching. Baty in left field, it's not like he's never played there before. I'm honestly not that concerned about Baty in left field. And at this point, we know what Juan Soto is defensively and right. So honestly, my overall grade for the outfield is really a B+. I think it's gotten better, certainly with the addition of Robert Jr. We had about 1.5 outfielders before him. The idea of Baty and the idea of Benj, we're just going to have to see how that shakes out, I think, through the spring and honestly through the early summer. But I would give that a B+ as a whole. That looks pretty good to me. A lot of that hinges on, does Robert Jr. bounce back to, 2023 Luis Robert Jr.? If it's 2025 Luis Robert Jr., then don't get me wrong. That grade is going to plummet.
I'll go B because there's a little bit more I have to see before I can go any higher than that. I think that people are probably underestimating Baty a little bit. From the conversations that I have with the broadcasters who covered the AAA Syracuse team, they say, I think Baty has sort of a rocket of an arm. Like, I think that you could actually see him,
does have a good arm.
Right?
Yeah.
Throwing out some guys at home plate. Like, you're going to probably see a couple of things about Baty that you previously haven't seen before, at least during his time as a New York Met. I think Robert Jr. is going to be solid there, and I think that his track record proves that. I think Soto is okay. Yeah, I don't think he's great defensively. Obviously, we know where, his worth is. So I'll go B on that until I can kind of see more about who can bounce back and who can figure out what their role is supposed to be there.
I will say that if Luis Robert Jr. doesn't hit, and it's, 2025, we're in the trenches, you could see the Mets maybe in the market again for a veteran hitting outfielder at the trade deadline if that becomes a question mark. Because then all of a sudden you got 2 question marks in 3 outfield positions.
Outfield, offense, grade.
Outfield, that's the same. I gave my one B+, I think all around.
Okay, all around. See,
that hinges on Robert, though.
Right. I don't know. Yeah, you said B+. I probably would go...
The more I think about Robert, the more nervous I get. Maybe B.
No, I think you have to go B+ because of Soto. Mm-hmm. He is bringing the entire average way, way, way up.
He's doing some heavy lifting.
He is doing some real heavy lifting there. And listen, don't act like if you're a viewer and you watch the Mets, we all know what Brett Baty is capable of at his best. I don't know if he's going to bring it or not, but he can hit the damn ball, okay? He can hit for power. We have seen him do it before. It's just a matter of whether or not that's going to happen again. But he's a little like wonky, I feel like, at the plate. He's a little bit like, I feel like he's like a little off balance just as like a general human being. I'm not sure why that is. Something about the proportions I feel like are not exactly right. But I do think he actually is a good athlete. He is my sleeper pick. He has a sleeper build, okay? But I really do. I think he's actually a really solid athlete. So I want to see what he's able to do this year, especially based on what happened last year. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say my closing point is I am interested to see do I think the move to left field is crazy? To ask that of Brett Baty? No. But I'm considering his best showing on the New York Mets so far was last year in the second half when he was playing where he was comfortable, which was largely third base. I'm interested to see if the defensive move affects him at all at the plate. And I think we're going to find out.
You got to give a little credit where credit's due. My man has been through the ringer, okay?
My man,
Brett. Like, I don't know why I have such a soft spot for him, but my man has been through a lot here. A lot of movement. A lot of different positions, a lot of different sorting around in the lineup. He's been in, he's been out, back to Syracuse,
little
up to
too
New
much
York
Syracuse.
Mets.
Yep.
Different apartments, moving his gear, moving
Tahoe
his clothes.
That Juan Soto bought him.
A girlfriend who became his wife through all of it.
That he
She's
met
a
at the
winner.
University of Binghamton.
I mean, my God, there was a lot going on there for him. I am rooting for Brett Baty. Bench options. Let's talk about that and see how you feel. We got Luis Torrens. We got Ronnie Mauricio, Tyrone Taylor, and Jared Young, among potentially others. How are we feeling about that?
I mean, I think obviously Torrens has the backup catcher role. Tyrone Taylor, I think, is obviously that 4th outfielder right now. And I think it's a good thing that Mauricio can play, the corner infield position. Certainly when you look at the question marks there. Do I think Jared Young's spot could be in flux with some of the guys in AAA if they're hitting come, say, June? Possibly. But we'll see how that shakes out.
You know what I'll say? I don't necessarily need to do a grade on this, but when I look at Torrens, Mauricio, Taylor, the word that comes to mind is athleticism. Mm-hmm. And I think when you're thinking about some guys who you might want to put in certain spots, that's exactly the word that you would want to hear. I think that these are just truly athletic guys, athletic human beings who can do a lot in a lot of different spaces, versatile guys who can come in at any time off the bench and perform and do well. So I like what I see there. Let's move on to the projected starting rotation. Here's what we got going on there. We have, and what time is it? Because our director needs to leave at 7:15. Thank you so much, GT. GT is our director, directs this Mets podcast. Great job, GT. Projected starting rotation. We have Freddie Peralta, Nolan McLean, Clay Holmes, David Peterson, Sean Manaea, Kodai Senga. Damn, there's a lot to unpack there, but we have 5 minutes until GT has to go, so let's make them count.
We got 5 minutes, and we got really 6 guys in this starting rotation. Senga, to me, is a big wild card here. I believe in my heart that we are sort of at the end of the line with the Kodai Senga New York Mets experiment.
Wow.
We know what his ceiling is and his potential when he's at his best. It's ace caliber stuff. It's the ability to carry a rotation when he is at his best, which has not been the majority of the time. It's probably been about 10% of the time that he's been a New York Met. Manaea and Senga both struggled to stay on the mound last year due to injury and were not very good when they were out there. So much of this rotation still hinges on the bounce-back success of both Kodai Senga and Sean Manaea. And listen, am I really happy that they got Freddie Peralta? Yes, because things looked a whole lot worse without him. But the singular addition of Freddie Peralta kind of hasn't really changed the questions that we were going to have anyway. I covered Manaea and Senga. The reality there is that if Manaea and Senga suck and really just it's the end of the line, there is a lot of competition there to come and swoop in. We did not include Jonah Tong in that projected 6. Jonah Tong, I think Jonah Tong is going to start the season in Syracuse based on nothing else other than the fact he had a 7.71 ERA through his 5 starts last fall. That is not very good. I think they need to see more from him in Syracuse, and I honestly don't think they're crazy to say that. But Jonah Tong is going to be knocking on the door in Syracuse if Manaea and Senga suck. Same thing for Christian Scott. He might end up in Syracuse to start. Probably should. He's coming off a Tommy John surgery. Give him a minute, right? Still a young guy. Still could be really good. Probably going to start in Syracuse. And then you even have Tobias Myers, who's the second part of that Freddie Peralta trade. Long relief guy. Can start. Can fill in for you if you need him to. The heat is on Manaea and Senga here. I know everybody wants to talk about Nolan McLean and, is he going to have a big, sophomore performance? It's actually his rookie year. Just so everybody knows, Nolan McLean could win NL Rookie of the Year. He's eligible. There'll be a lot of heat and a lot of pressure there and for Peralta, but I really think the make or break, the sink or swim of this rotation lies in Manaea, Senga, and to a lesser extent, David Peterson, who also fell off the map last year in the second half.
There were a couple of falling off the map instances last season. You may remember.
Sean Manaea was projected to be the ace of the team, and then woo!
I know. Sean Manaea might not ever return to ace form again, but that doesn't mean that he can't be a good pitcher.
I root for him.
And listen, I do like Peralta. I do like McLean. I do think there are some strong starters in this rotation, but you need consistency. And that's the one thing last year that, as a Mets fan, if you were a Mets player, you just didn't have. And it sank them. It literally sank them. And they didn't go to the freaking playoffs. We just can't have that again. It's so embarrassing. I can't have a situation where I'm looking a Marlins game in the face and thinking that decides my fate for the next how many months. I'm not doing it. I can't do it, and I won't do it. Grade the rotation.
I give it a B-, the 6 projected. First of all, it'll be interesting to see if they go with 6 starters. I think with Senga, that has been something that worked out in the past. If Senga sucks in spring training, maybe Senga doesn't even have a rotation spot. I'm comfortable in saying that I really feel like the heat is on Kodai Senga and Port St. Lucie. I give it a B- because I think so much is riding on Manaea, Peterson, and Senga, and I wish that still wasn't the case. At the same time, as I said before, you do feel good about who they have knocking on the door to come in and replace them if the wheels fall off the bus.
100%. I love when you say that phrase. I'll give them a B, but it's just because I'm hopeful and wishful. I think that's all the time we have for today, so perhaps we come back around to the bullpen for the next episode. But thank you so much, everybody, for being here. This has been the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast. That's Ashley Wenskoski. I'm Samantha Croston. Be sure to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. Really helps us out when you do that. Quickly, tell people where they can find you on Instagram, Twitter, social media. We'd love for you guys to follow us on our personal channels as well.
Yes. Twitter, Ashley Wensk TV. Instagram, Ashley Wensk, I believe. Yes.
It's almost hard to think about it, right?
Wait, what is my Instagram?
My Twitter is SamCroston1. My Instagram is Sam_Croston. It really helps us out when you do that. We also have a Why Mets Pod Instagram.
That's what I was going to say.
I know. It's at Why Mets Pod. Please follow that as well. Really helps us out when you follow the social channels. That's where you'll see all of the information that we want to put out to you guys. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next time.
Baseball's here.